Welcome back to Grid Drop. Today we're going to help you get faster around one of F1's fastest tracks, Baku. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to leave any feedback or questions in the comment section or in my Discord, which is linked in the description. That being said, let's get right into it. This video will be broken down into 5 sections: car setup, Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3, and finally a full lap. These sections are all equally important, so stay tuned to the end of the video if you really want to improve. So here's the setup I run in Baku. Feel free to pause the video and screenshot this if you want to try out this setup on your own. Since there's so many high-speed straights in Baku, this setup helps you maintain minimal drag while still having enough downforce. The corners in Baku are almost always right angles, so good rotation is key, and this setup definitely achieves that. It also allows you to keep the car stable over the curves. Overall, I recommend playing around with your setup, but this is a pretty good baseline to start with. Heading into turn 1, you want to keep an eye on the meter boards to the right. You should be braking just after the 150 meter mark. Once entering the corner, you should aim to have both of your right wheels mounted on the curb to the right, as this extends the track. Once you hit the 50 meter board on the right, this is where you begin to turn into the corner. It's important to look towards the apex of the corner here, as the exit is pretty tight, so a good run through here is critical. Once at the apex of the corner, try to avoid taking too much curb. This one has around a 50-50 shot of making you lose stability. On exit, you can use the exit curb on the right, but only if you're comfortable doing so. Taking a bit too much curb can result in contact with the wall or wheel spin on exit. Heading into turn 2 now, you want to be watching the right side of the track for your braking point. This one might be difficult to judge, but I pay attention to this big gap in the wall. Once the gap is closed, that's where you brake. I find this braking point to be extremely effective. Turning into this corner can be tricky, as this one also has a pretty tight exit. When turning in, make sure to be careful with the left-hand curb. Similar to turn 1, this curb is a little bit sketchy. Once turning in, you want a full rotation in your steering angle. It's easy to get the line wrong through here. Once exiting, focus your attention on the exit curb on the right, and once you're almost straightened out, try to get your front right completely over this white line. Now, putting the power down can lead to some wheel spin here, so make sure to be smooth on the throttle. On to the second straight now, just keep your car positioned all the way to the right. Into turn 3, pay attention to the boards on the right. You want to be braking right at 125 meters, between the 150 and the 100 meter marks. An easy way to remember this is the tree on the right. Once you hit this tree, slam on the brakes. Now, braking hard and downshifting, focus your attention to the inside curb here. This curb is flat, so it can be cut completely. Aim your front right as close as you can to the wall here. This gives you the most space on the track and helps out your exit. Once at the apex, slowly increase your throttle and aim your front right tire towards the red and white curbs. You should be using the full extent of the track here, but be careful about hitting the wall on the right. Wheel spin is common here as your rear tires are still on the curbs once you put the power down. Focusing on the next corner, switch to the left-hand side of the track and keep an eye out on the big liqui moly sign on the right. Once you reach this point, brake. Into this corner, you want a long, sweeping right-hand turn with a consistent steering input, as the exit can be a little bit difficult. Be slow and steady on the throttle once at the midpoint of the corner, as wheel spin is also quite common here. So, that's Sector 1, let's take a look at it at full speed. Sector 2 is a little bit more tricky than Sector 1. Into this left-hander, there aren't many reference points to judge your braking, so what tends to work for me is looking for the 50 meter board, and you want to brake just before it. Once braking, turn in a little bit later than you expect. This corner quickly turns into a right-hander, so a later apex helps you transition into the next corner. Once turning in, try to use as much of the curb on the left as you possibly can. Once you can see the next corner in full, start turning in. For this one, avoid the inside curb at all costs. It will 100% destabilize your car and make you lose time on the next straight. A slight tap of the brakes here can be quite effective, as it allows you to be more cautious in avoiding the left-hand wall. Once exiting, you can use the left-hand curbs to extend the track. Onto the small straight now, keep your car to the left side of the track. Braking here is also a little bit difficult, and the meter boards aren't so easy to see, so keep an eye out for the bright orange section of the wall on the right. You want to brake just before you reach this point. Once under braking, keep your car as close to the wall as you possibly can. Once this wall starts to end, that's when you turn in. You want a very sharp steering angle and a smooth front end rotation through here, as it's very easy to bump the left wall on exit. Aim to take a slight amount of the curb. This curb will bump you around a bit, but it's faster in the long run. Once exiting, immediately switch to the right side of the track. The next corner is the most infamous one on this track, but it's actually quite easy. Brake at exactly the 50-meter board and stick as close as you possibly can to the left-hand wall bumping out. Cutting as close as you can to this wall minimizes the chances of a crash into the right-hand wall. Now, once mid-corner, stick close to the left-hand side and try to be close to this bump out in the guardrail. This is a more optimal line for the next corner. There isn't a specific braking point here, you just kind of have to feel it out. A light tap of the brake should get you through here, and you want to stick as close as you can to the right-hand wall. You can use the curb if you like. Once through the castle section, physically look towards the apex of the next corner, as this will help you know where to turn in. A lift of the throttle is necessary here. Once mid-corner, look towards the exit. The right-hand wall is not actually the barrier of the track here, the painted white line is. So if you go beyond this point, which is quite easy to do, it'll be a track limits violation. To avoid this, just go a little bit easier on the throttle and make sure that you keep the front left inside the track. Onto the straight now, keep your car to the right. Once the left-hander approaches, aim to be as close to the curb as you possibly can, and once passing the corner, relax the steering and switch back to the outside. This next corner is difficult as it's a downhill braking section. You should aim to brake right around the 100-meter boards, and if they're a little bit too difficult to spot, you can look where the curb begins on the right-hand side and brake there. Once braking, keep an eye on the apex of the next corner, but make sure to avoid the curb here. When exiting, make sure you're careful on the throttle and try to avoid understeer, as any amount of understeer will likely send you into the wall. Once the wheel is straightened out, slam the power down. So, that's a look at Sector 2, now let's see it at full speed. Sector 3 is much easier than Sector 2. Into this left-hander, look for the 100-meter board on the right. This one's pretty easy to spot. Once you hit this point, brake. Under braking, turn in a little bit later than you think you have to. This corner can be a little bit deceiving, but nothing too crazy. You can take a little bit of curb here, but too much will be problematic. Once mid-corner, look towards the exit curb. The most curb you want to take here is your right wheels directly on top of it. If you go over the curb completely, you can bottom out. Once off this curb, feel free to put the power all the way down. The rest of the lap is taken completely flat out. Stick to the right side of the track, and once you see the curb on the left, aim directly for it. Once past this left-hander, keep your steering angle to the left as you want a more sweeping entry into the final corner. You can use this curb here as you should make sure you get really close to the wall. Any understeer or a bad line will end up in a crash on corner exit. Once exiting this corner, keep it out of the wall on the left, and you're pretty much good to go. So that's all of it. Now let's take a look at full speed Sector 3. Now that you've seen every sector, let's put it all together. Here's the full lap. So there you have it, a full lap of Baku broken down corner by corner and sector by sector. If you have any questions or need more tips, feel free to leave a comment on this video or in my Discord. Also, let me know if you want to see more track guides, and if so, which ones would you like to see. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.